Hello everyone, my name is Ben and welcome back to PASSTHEauxCORD, a channel where this was released in 1999? What the fuck? I didn't realize how far back Muse was in the general landscape of rock music. This was before the 2000s, technically. I have to give it to them that they were ahead of their time. I mean, I feel like that's fairly obvious at this point. I guess I didn't realize that, but I have to give them a little bit more credit just because of it. Nonetheless, I was thinking that there was some ups and downs, some goods and bads with this project so far. I thought that it had some of the most unique Muse songs that I've seen thus far, but at the same time, their sound and style is pretty unique. A lot of these songs feel like underdeveloped versions of what they would later become. Of course, if you're just coming back from part one, you've already heard me say all that though, so I don't really need to catch you up too terribly much. I feel like we should just go ahead and see what else they got for us. But first I want to mention that I'm actually really enjoying this reaction in particular because I actually have like things to say about a Muse project finally. Whereas before I was just kind of like, yeah, that's another good song. I'm like actually critiquing something. Regardless, Unintended is the next one. More acoustic riffs. Balladry, possibly. Very compelled by the lyrical content here. Certainly giving itself room to build up a little more, but liking what we're hearing so far. The backing little details that go on are very tasteful. So cool. I'm actually really glad that that didn't do what I was predicting it to do and get all huge and dramatic sounding like a lot of, I mean, being real, a lot of their more stripped back sounding songs do when they sound that way in the beginning. This was a pretty just chill, peaceful, tastefully slow song. And we've definitely had more of that kind of thing going on this album than I've heard on the other Muse albums for sure. It was just really tasteful with everything that it did. I don't think that that could have been executed any better than it was, so I did appreciate that much on that track for sure. I think that that one just had a really nice sound to it overall. Definitely one that I could see myself returning to outside of the context of the album, just because it was very peaceful and serene and kind of blissfully bittersweet in its own special little way. That's not to say that there's not a lot of songs that sound the way that that one did. That was, you know, pretty typical, especially around this time in music. I'm not really getting a lot in the realm of definitive meaning behind this song. I feel like this one's definitely one of the most abstract ones we've had on here before, but it does seem like some kind of love song if we're going to be taking this at least face value, base level kind of meaning. Of course, metaphors are something that are baked into a lot of the meanings behind a lot of these tracks, so I wouldn't be entirely shocked if that was going on here either. But regardless, pretty decent track on here for sure. Next one is Uno. This one also may have been a single, I think. This sounds very interesting, man. Yeah, it was their first single, actually. Okay. Okay. You got that bass coming through, and now it's just all put together. Okay. I feel like the highs in the mix are still kind of compressed. Ooh, okay. Matt Bellamy is such an edgelord on this project. Okay. Well, you can't say this isn't dynamic. This is all over the place. I mean, it sounds like folk now almost. Okay. Oh shit, alright. I was actually just thinking that it was going to lead into a different section of the song. I didn't think it was over already. Yeah, that certainly was all over the place, and I feel like we haven't had anywhere near as many all over the place songs on this particular Muse record. Everything has been pretty decided in its sound and actually sticks to it, whereas I feel like the dynamics were something that they brought in later on, especially on Origin of Symmetry and Absolution. I remember there being a lot of songs that were just kind of stripped back at first and then just had a loud boom to them and just picked up a lot. I think that this is one of the only ones on here, I guess, so far that have done that, so it was good to hear. And I think this was one of the heaviest Muse songs I've heard just from like a technical standpoint. I think that the way those riffs kind of picked up towards the chorus section, you know, really just hit pretty heavy. It might have to do with the fact that this is mixed in a way where it's very, again, kind of demo quality. And for whatever reason, the dirtier that something sounds like that, the more I feel like it gives off the aura of being a little bit heavier. Maybe it's just how gravelly old punk rock sounds, you know, shit like that, I guess. I am conflicted as to the meaning of this song. I think that maybe it's the narrator mad at themselves almost because they fucked up a big opportunity. Again, this album seems to be a lot about struggling and striving to be the next big band, the famous people that they, you know, later ended up being, especially with relation to number one, talking about music charts. That's definitely a very significant term that's brought up a lot in this song and a lot in the music industry as well. Maybe it's about the conflict of not selling out but wanting to every time you get the opportunity so that you can make it big like that. On the other hand, this could very easily be about a collaborator who did something to kind of fuck up their position, or, you know, who knows, maybe there was even another member of the band that either we do know about and I'm oblivious of, or we don't know about. Anything's possible. This was their first single, and it appeared on the EP that came before this project, apparently, and that's definitely a first single right there. It gives off that vibe. Sober is the next one. This one really isn't fucking around. It goes straight into it like this. I feel like we've got another very literal meaning again. Okay. I really dig this chorus. Oh, that's pretty cool. This one's really got me asking if it needs to be this long. Yeah, I feel like the rest of this has been unnecessary since the bridge. Whether it be just because it was beginning to feel repetitive to me, or that was one of the most, I mean, uninventive is a pretty harsh word for it, but I guess it's the only one that's coming to mind. Just very typical rock sound to that one, that it ended up kind of boring me part of the way through. Like I said, you know, you've got that last chorus on there, and that would have been a pretty solid way to end the track, especially if you had maybe like a final repeat of the chorus where something was added to it. I feel like that would have definitely been a better structure to put in place. But other than that, there was a lot of things I did like about this song. I kind of liked the straightforwardness of it, to contrast my dislike of it, I guess. Pretty clearly a track about alcoholism, and our narrator may or may not be the alcoholic depending on how you want to look at it. Either this is the person who is having the addiction here, telling the alcohol that it has turned on them in a way where it's just not doing it for them, or maybe it's just not healthy with their lifestyle, maybe it's causing issues, things like that, and that's what's turning on the narrator, or maybe the alcoholic is the person who's turning on the narrator. It's really hard to say, but the phrase "you're so solid, it burns inside of me" could also almost be taken two different ways. And I feel like at this point in my talking through the meaning of the track, it ends up being a thing where you could totally take it either way. So maybe people on either end of the spectrum could relate to it, I guess. So lyrically, it's even a little bit more interesting than it lets in initially, I suppose, but in the sound of that track, I guess there wasn't really a lot going on. Pretty just standard rock song. Not a terrible thing, it's not awful, just not a lot to say about it, I guess. Spiral Static is the next one. And also, oh, never mind, maybe? Sorry, Escape is the next one on here. Yeah, Spiral Static appears to be the bonus track, maybe? I'm not sure. Another very mellow stripped back song. Ooh, those vocals sound really nice. That picked up a lot, alright. Alright, I like how it's kind of calming down at the end here. Okay, so again, one of these songs that kind of has a lot more abstract intentions with the lyrics. I feel like you can take this a variety of ways. I think you can look at this as the falling out of a relationship to some degree. I think you could also go ahead and look at this in a way where it's about lacking self-confidence and the narrator is talking to themselves. This is an introspective song. It's very hard to say exactly what's going on, but it's definitely a lot further away from the themes of the entertainment industry that we were speaking on before, so I do feel like it's got that much going for it. It's a little bit of a breakaway from the other stuff that we've had on here. Sober definitely was too. We're on some more like personal themes, I guess, on this part of the album. So, and that song more reminded me of some of the other songs from Muse that ended up starting out really stripped back because it got really heavy. It had a heavier, much more rock leaning sound towards that middle section, and again, I liked that it kind of calmed back down at the end. It made it feel like our narrator had some sort of burst of anger in the middle of the track, and it kind of started out depressed and ended out depressed too, but it just became particularly like hard to bear in that middle section or something to that degree. Definitely feels very emotional for the way the track is laid out, and I like that it had very clear sections. That was cool too. Overdue is the next one and the shortest song on the album. Okay, well this is certainly interesting. Yeah. Not that exciting of a chorus. Kind of surprising. Apparently this was the first Muse song to be commercially released, and again, this feels like them, but very early like them, much like Uno did, and so it's pretty easy to see how that came about. Frankly, I'm pretty unimpressed with that one, especially with it being the shortest one on the album. I feel like it's kind of fillery, even though this was apparently a single to some degree. Definitely didn't get a lot from the way that chorus was structured, but it definitely had a solid rock sound that was still really easy to kind of nod your head along with and just enjoy in a very in-the-moment sense. But I feel like I didn't walk away with that song with anything interesting to really say about it. Again, kind of feels like a song about a toxic relationship of some kind, or at least a falling out between two people to some degree. Very vague. Doesn't say a whole lot, and apparently it hasn't been played live since 2000, so it's very possible that they also aren't really that big of a fan of this track. Just a thought. I feel like they really defined the barn burner of a track that this would have kind of been trying to be much better later on, because there definitely are ones like this. I think it's the track Assassin that's coming to mind on Black Holes and Revelations. That's maybe totally wrong, but either way, you know, they do have this formula later on some of the other albums. It's just that those went over a lot more interestingly. Hate This and I'll Love You is the next one. Also, think this is the actual closer, and then there's a bonus track. That's usually how it goes, and they're out of order again, so I'm gonna assume that's how it is. Some nature sounds, which is so not Muse, but okay. Already picking up, huh? This definitely does feel like it's tying back into the overall themes a little more. That's the Muse I know right there. Matt was so much more eccentric with his vocal performance on this project. These nature sounds are so weirdly out of place. I am camping on the ISS right now. Yeah, how are you gonna pair nature sounds with this? Pretty fucking wild sounding now. I gotta get that. Mixing's kinda cool here. Well, apparently wowing me with the closer was a thing that also wasn't happening on the first Muse album before their big commercial breakout, because that track did not necessarily do that much for me. It did wrap around once again to the Showbiz theme, the very literal interpretation behind it of struggling for fame, this, that, and the other thing, and especially along the lines of not wanting to live up to expectations. And I feel like this album really stayed pretty consistent, at least with its message and what it was trying to tell you about. I did like that a lot about this album in particular from them. It seemed to have a much more decided subject matter than anything else they really made, and it almost was down to like a concept album kind of consistency, how much they did talk on that on here. And I feel like almost everything can be wrapped back around to that in some way, shape, or form. It's just that, especially at the end here, we did have some more songs that weren't really quite like that, but for the most part it was pretty decided in that subject matter, and I think that this conclusion here was a pretty good way to send it out. I guess it didn't really add a lot to it, so I'm kind of mixed on that part of it. I'm not really a big fan of how that song sounded, though. Again, you kind of had me in two different places. I feel like having very earthy nature sounds is something so un-Muse-like to a ridiculously high degree. I said I was camping in the ISS, and I meant it, because Muse usually makes you feel like you're in outer space floating out in a different galaxy or some shit, and then to have crickets and frogs is pretty weird. Very dynamic, and that was indicative of some of the other stuff that they would do later again, but also want to reiterate my point that a lot of the stuff that is very similar to what they would do later was better defined, remastered, taken at a better angle later in their career when they had better mastered this kind of sound. And really, that's kind of what I feel for this album in general. I think that, once again, I will reiterate, it had some very unique songs for the band. It had some of the most unique Muse songs, but that was actually just because they were some of the most simple ones, all things said and done. And it was really interesting to hear some very simplistic songs from Muse, and I think that those ones were definitely the best ones on here. I think that they had some really cool ideas, some stuff that they would improve on much better in the future, but some stuff that they never really did again and was mastered pretty well on here. So I think it's a solid debut from them, but I think that I'll be revisiting this one a lot less than I do some of the other projects from the band. That's not to say I didn't like this one. It's just to say that it definitely showed some growing pains for the band, I guess. And I have to imagine going back and listening to the EP, which, I mean, a few of these songs came off of there anyways, would definitely give you similar feelings. Their later stuff would be much better engineered, and they would be much more decided in the sound, the formula, and what they exactly wanted to do with their style. Meaning-wise, though, I think that this album was very meaningful and impactful in pretty much every song, and the way the lyrics were written was sometimes a little bit underdeveloped, but in a way where you could still relate to it. Maybe relate to it more than a lot of Muse songs that are the more popular ones, so that much was pretty cool. But yeah, I guess all things considered, not one of their stronger projects, but I wouldn't expect it to be. This was a growing moment for the band, definitely proving their skill and talent early on, but still definitely not some of their best stuff. I guess I'm feeling like a 6 out of 10 on it, so let's go back and check out the bonus track. And a lot of times this is better than the closer. I've found that to happen multiple times, so we'll see. Spiral Static is this one though. 4:44 in length, that is. This is eerie sounding. Okay, I was gonna say something. I'm not gonna anymore. Why though? I feel like that's way too early to strip it way back like this. Very interesting to see his range on here, but I can also barely hear the guy. I feel like he's kind of mumbling through this in a way. The heavier portions of this track are definitely pretty cool. Okay, again, unfortunately, I don't really have a lot to say about that one. I feel like the lyrics are especially vague on this one, so I really don't have anything to say about it on there. I guess the one thing that I'll specifically say about this is that the heavier sections sounded really cool, and I liked those a lot in a very typical Muse fashion, but I do think that this song did way too much of up and down and up and down and up and down, and it just kind of wore me out by the end of it, and at some point my brain just started tuning it out. And we're back. Hello everyone, my name is Ben and welcome back to Pass the Aux Cord, a channel where I'm not sure what terrible things I did in a past life to deserve my camera dying right before I was about to do the outro, but I think I said pretty much everything that I had to say about my monitor being in screen and that being a little bit weird, but also about that last song that we took a look at, and I don't remember having anything else to say about it, and I don't remember the song all that much because it was not a particularly memorable one. We're talking about remembering things a lot, that is. Anyway, but that's, I guess, all I got for you on this one. Again, I would like to mention that the first 2 episodes of my podcast are up already, and the first episode is going to be linked here below me, so you can go check those out if hearing about some new music and our takes on it will be something interesting to you. And drop a like on the video if you did like what you saw today. Subscribe to the channel for more music related content coming your way. Hit the bell for notifications on that same thing as well. But that is just about going to wrap it up for this one, and I will see you in the next video.